But you have to have believed in yourself a little bit too. Do you ever have to deal with?
I believe in myself to the umpteenth degree. Umpteenth degree.
Taylor Rooks is a sports journalist, viral sensation, and the leading lady of Bleacher Report's Take It There with Taylor Rooks. She interviews athletes like Trae Young, Chris Paul, Saquon Barkley, and Jimmy Butler, just to name a few. Taylor worked at Sportsnet New York and the Big Ten Network. That's not all. She also started her own podcast, Time Out with Taylor Rooks. She's a busy girl, but she made time to chat with me today, and I thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
How are you?
All things considered, I'm doing well, staying in, trying to stay safe, and do all the things, washing my hands. But I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Those are all critical things in this quarantine season, but I know you're staying busy, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. I want to take a page out of the Lovey Aji Jones book and ask you first off, what did you want to be when you were a child? Like, what did you want to be growing up?
Growing up, like when I was like elementary school, middle school, I really wanted to be a lawyer. I thought it was really cool. And my mom's favorite show was like the original Law and Order. So she always had it on and I just thought it was great. I've always loved talking. So I loved when they'd be in court arguing, and then at the end when they'd give their closing arguments, it was just very compelling to me. So I always thought I'd be like a lawyer or do something in business, something more corporate. But then when I got to high school and definitely college, I was like, I can do this. But I think I always was having my mom like record me on the camcorder because I thought people that did news were really cool. But I don't know if I was like, I can do this. I just liked doing it. And I felt like I was good at it. But I loved watching the lawyers on Law and Order. But I always was like, I want to be on TV. I want to talk to people.
That's awesome. So in high school, did you get experience doing that? Were you on like the news station there?
Yeah. So I did the news station in elementary school, in middle school, and in high. I always loved. Yeah, I did the Eagle News Network when I was in elementary school. I wonder if they still have those tapes. I would love to like contact them and see if they.
We gotta bring those back.
Yeah, I'd love to see them. So I did stuff like that throughout my youth.
Nice. In high school, what else were you involved in? Were you on any sports teams or anything like that?
Yeah, in high school, I did track. I played volleyball for a little bit. And then when I was younger, I played soccer and tennis. But I knew I wasn't going to be like a professional at any of those things. So I switched to what I knew I was good at, which was talking about those things.
Right. And what was growing up in Atlanta like?
Yeah, so I'm from Gwinnett County, which is like 25 minutes outside the city. It's considered Metro Atlanta. And I love Georgia as a state. I love where I'm from. I think it's just a mix of so many great things. We have great culture, great sports, great food, great people. It's a very kind place. Everyone's incredibly warm and definitely welcoming. I think that's a trait of Southerners for sure. It's just, I was growing up listening to Outkast and watching Michael Vick, and it's a place that a lot of things start in Atlanta, and a lot of things have been bred from Atlanta sound or Atlanta culture, and that makes me very proud to be from that vicinity.
Definitely. And then transitioning for college, why did you choose to go where you went?
So both my parents went to the University of Illinois. And so I grew up always hearing about Champaign, Illinois, and hearing about the basketball team and football team there. So when I went to visit, I was like, this is definitely where I want to go. I also always knew that I wanted to leave. Not because I didn't love being home and love Georgia, because I did. I just always knew there was something more and there was other things to experience. And I didn't want, to spend my 4 college years also at home. I wanted to see other people, meet other people, and all that stuff. So Illinois was the perfect place to do that.
And you were on the school's TV station and everything there too?
Yeah, so at my school, if you major in broadcast journalism, your junior year and senior year, the class is the TV show.
Okay, yeah.
The class is you doing, what was it called? UI7 is what it's called.
Okay.
So yeah, you had to anchor, produce, direct, do the prompter, you had to do every job in the newsroom to learn it.
Yeah.
Create packages and do all those things. So I did participate in the school network, but I was really doing a lot of my own content, and I feel like that's where I got a lot of my experience from. But I was on the school's channel.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you were doing on your own? I know you had like so many jobs in college. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I started a blog when I was a freshman. And then from there, I worked with Fox Sports the rest of my college career. I interned for PGA Tour and Comcast Sportsnet Chicago, and I worked for the Big Ten Network, and I did some work for CBS Sports Network. So I did a myriad of different things when I was in school. But it all started because I had this idea of doing something that was my own, and somebody picked up on that and saw it and said, we want you to work for us when you're in school. And I was able to gain a lot of experience. I was able to become a better storyteller, a better interviewer, just through kind of throwing myself into the fire.
Right. And you did a lot of work, but I have to assume that you were having fun too. Do you have any good college memories you can share?
I was definitely having a lot of fun. The bar that was really fun when I was in school, it's called Cam's. It's like a historic bar. Like my parents went to Cam's. But it's a place that everybody would go after football games, after basketball games. It was like the bar on campus. So I was there. The crazy thing about Illinois, though, that is different from a lot of other colleges, I think, is you only have to be 19 to go to bars.
Really?
Yeah.
Even like right now?
Yeah, right now, 19. Obviously,
wow.
You can't unless you're 21, but you can get in if you're 19. And then if you're 21, you get a wristband, and then you
okay.
So people are partying at actual bars like freshman year. My birthday is on like the inside. So my freshman year, I was in the bar when I wasn't supposed to be. I've been out of 18, but I couldn't freely go until like the last month of school because I didn't turn 19 until May, and school was about to be over.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy. You can be 19 and go to the bar.
That's crazy. That has to have some crazy stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I also heard that like 2 months after college, you had a job already. What was that like?
Yeah. Honestly, it was stressful because I didn't have a job when I graduated. I didn't have a job most of the time, and I'm thinking I'm not gonna ever have a job, and what am I gonna do? Yeah. But the Big Ten Network called me and asked me to work for them 2 days before I was gonna move back home. So the timeline was wild. But I was definitely thrown into the fire at 21. I was on a live television show every single day, and having to learn about preparation and learn about a newsroom and learn how you're supposed to speak on air. You know, this was my first job. It was my first consistent job on a really big stage, but I learned so much from it. I love the Big Ten Network. I love all of the people there. And I'm just thankful, you know, when I look back on it, I think about Quentin Carter, who gave me the job. And I'm like, he took such a big chance on somebody who had never been on television really. And my whole life would be different if he didn't believe that I was able to come onto his network and do a good job. So I'm very thankful to everybody that is in that studio in Chicago.
But you have to have believed in yourself a little bit too. Do you ever have to deal with?
I believe in myself to the umpteenth degree. You know, like when he asked me to do the job, I was like, yes, I can do it. Even though I didn't know if I could do it, I was like, I can do it. I'll figure it out. You know, maybe if I can't do it right now, I can do it tomorrow. But I've always been that way. I feel like every human should be that way. I think we're all living, and we can all do whatever it is that we want to do. So yeah, it's definitely been a ride, but it's been fun, and I have been super fortunate.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for people who were kind of like you were when you graduated college in that like, oh God, what am I going to do now type of space?
Yeah, I would say to just push through it. And I know that's very cliche and people always say things like that, but it's the truth. Like, as long as you keep working, the opportunity will come, but it's only going to come when it comes. And the stressing is not going to help you or your mental, and you can't control it. But what you can control is the work you do and who you send it to and who sees it. Those are all things that are in your power, and you have the power to create really good content. And when good content exists, people will find it, people will watch it, people will see it. But everybody feels discouraged. Every journalist, every person, every whoever that you look up to has had the time where they were like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. You know, I really was like, no one is giving me a job. I had sent emails to hundreds of people and barely got responses. So just know that like it will come, and everybody has that moment where they're a little down and a little like doubting themselves a bit, but you just have to push through that.
And you're such a testimony of that. Can you kind of say like what in your career happened after the Big Ten Network?
So after the Big Ten Network, I kind of felt like I wanted to do more. Like I didn't just want to host, I wanted to like anchor, and I wanted to give lots of opinions, and I wanted to interview regularly. And New York wanted me to come. SNY, which is called Sportsnet New York, the station here, they cover like Knicks, Nets, Mets, Yankees, Jets, Giants. They wanted me to come work, and I was like, okay, it's the #1 market. People care about sports so much here. It's different. You know, I was going from a national network to one that was regional, but it's New York. So when you're in the New York market, it feels national.
It's huge.
Yeah. Technically a regional network. So it was a leap. And a lot went into making that decision, but I just knew I wanted to have a bit of a bigger voice. And so I came to New York and I did that. And then after SNY, Bleacher Report wanted to give me a show. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, how did that come about?
Yeah, so it was honestly all because of the podcast. Starting that podcast at SNY was the best thing that I ever did, because I think it showed the power of conversation, the power of good, organic, loose conversation. And when Bleacher Report saw how that podcast was going, they were like, okay, we think we could give her a vehicle to do this long form, and in a structured environment and in show form. So I always say to people, like, start a podcast, start a good podcast, and it can always turn into other things.
Right. So can you talk a little bit about all the amazing people you've been able to interview?
Yeah, you know, I feel so blessed and so fortunate. Honestly, that's the thing that makes me the happiest about the jobs, people that I get to interview. And what people don't understand is somebody agreeing to be interviewed that's a very special thing, right? They're giving you your time. They're giving you their time. They are saying, I trust you enough with this story. I trust you to do a good job with this story. So I feel very indebted to those that let me interview them. You know, I think about people like Saquon Barkley and Kevin Durant, are two people that are very good friends of mine. I've known Kevin for 10 years. And for him to do the interview, it's a very, very special thing, that you trust someone in that way. Same with Saquon. I've interviewed him so many times. He's probably sick of me. But when you want to do things for your friends, you know, I think of Damian Lillard, who was on season 1. I met him at one of my good friends' weddings, and he has always been very good to me in this business. So he decided to do an interview as well. Jimmy Butler did the podcast and also did my show. I'm trying to think of some other people. Chris Paul, I worked with him with some stuff with HBCUs, and he agreed to do the show. But then there's also the people that you really don't know that well and decide to take this leap and do the show. Like DeMar DeRozan, for example, I think was one of the best interviews I did. And I didn't know DeMar at all. The first day I met DeMar was at the interview. But I think it ended up being really, really good. So I'm just thankful to everybody that says yes to doing an interview, and that gives me their time and their trust. And that's a really big part of journalism, and especially interviewing, is building those relationships and making sure that you continue to be authentic and real with those people, so that they will also give that back to you.
And how do you, in such a short time, make them feel comfortable enough to open up and share some really intimate stories?
You know, I legitimately do not know the answer to that. You know, I think if I really had to break it down, I would say it's a couple things. I try to be incredibly transparent and authentic and real, because I don't think it's fair of me to ask that of other people if I don't do it myself. And I think that anybody who has done an interview with me knows that they could ask me whatever and I'll answer, because I'm asking you whatever. I also think with a lot of these guys, I have known that our careers have almost arced together. Mm-hmm. So we feel very familiar. You know, like I've known Jason Tatum since he was 15. I covered his recruitment. I saw Saquon become an NFL player. I've known Victor Oladipo since he was a freshman in college. Like all of these things, so we feel very familiar. And I think what ends up happening is we see each other as peers, and you feel like you can open up to somebody who understands you, and the questions that they're asking you aren't coming from a place of judgment. It's just coming from a place of curiosity. I think that people also inherently trust women more. I think that it's easier to talk to somebody that looks like you. And I think that people tend to be interviewing Black athletes. So I think it's a number of different reasons. In general, I'm very warm. I like people. I think I make people feel comfortable. I don't know how or why. But yeah, I think it's a number of different things that makes people just want to talk when we sit down, and I'm thankful that they give me that opportunity.
Do you have any like go-to questions that you ask to kind of open things up, or how do you let the conversation flow?
Try not to get too structured, because when you are structured, they feel very structured, and I want everything to be super loose. So I just go where the conversation takes us. So it's not like one question, I'm like, I'm definitely gonna ask this. It's just, what are we talking about? And I go from there. I really do try to interview them the same way. If I'm having a conversation with my best friend, I ask them a question the same way I'd ask him or her.
Okay. And you kind of touched on this earlier, talking about, I was going to ask, what do you think is the best way to get into the game? You said your podcast or a podcast, whoever wants to get in.
Well, I think it's just like content creation in general, like figuring out what you're good at and what makes you unique as a media talent is the best thing. Owning what you do is the best thing. That's why I say, like, have a YouTube channel, do a podcast, have an incredibly unique voice on Twitter or Instagram. Because so many people want to do this, and it's great. I love it so many people want to be in media, but because there's so many and it's so oversaturated, it's like, what makes you different? What are you bringing that's different than what he or she is bringing? And I think realizing that and harnessing that is the best thing that you can do.
Okay. You also brought up Twitter, which I was going to ask you about. How do you kind of navigate the world of social media?
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time, and I feel no shame in this. I think I owe a lot of my career to social media. I think I was putting content out that people really enjoyed watching, that would retweet and like and create conversation about it. And if I didn't have like a Twitter or Instagram, I don't think I would be in the position that I am now. So I'm so thankful to every follower, every person who has ever supported any of the work that I've put out, who has ever put in any conversation they've ever had, because it has been gigantic for me. But I think it really does just go back to, on social media, I try to be myself, and I try to be exactly what I'm like. And that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Know what clips to put out is also very big. You want to make sure it's getting retweeted and liked. Knowing what is that viral thing, I think, is incredibly important. Interacting with people, I want everyone to feel like they know me. That's a very big thing of mine. I want to feel very accessible to people. And so that's kind of my social media philosophy.
I like it. And I wanted to also talk to you about legacy. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want people to know me as somebody who saw the humanity in everybody. A lot of the people that I end up interviewing are people have already made up in their minds who the person is, because they've seen them on the field or the court, or they've seen an interview or a clip, and they feel like they know them. And when you feel like you know somebody before ever having a conversation with them, you forget that they're human just like you. And I want all the work that I do to bring that human base out of everybody and show the viewer that there really is no difference between you and them except for what they do for their job. And how important it is for us to see that, because I think it can change the way that we talk about people and also change the way that we treat people. So that's what I want my legacy to be, that humanity is paramount, and there's so many things that make us the same and not that many things that make us different.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. How will you know that you've made it, or do you feel like you already have?
I don't think I'll ever feel like I made it. I think that's one thing that I struggle with in general, not the making it thing, because in all honesty, I feel like I probably couldn't care less if I've made it. I think that I want to just feel content.
Mm-hmm.
And an issue that I have is always thinking that there's more or better, and always looking forward to that next thing and thinking I have to get to that next thing to feel content or fulfilled. And that's not the truth. You got to learn to be super happy with where you are at in the moment. But yeah, I want to feel content, and that's when I think I'll be happy. Who knows? Maybe I won't feel fully content until I have like my job together and I'm married and I have my family and I feel like life has come full circle and it's wrapped up. I don't know. But I think it'll take years. I think it takes people a long time to feel fully there and totally fulfilled. And that's why I'm trying my best to be okay with where I'm at in the moment. And I'm a person who I think is already naturally happy, and I tend to be super full of joy. So I'm good, but I want to feel contentment is very important to me.
I think that makes a lot of sense. That's really relatable. I think everyone has that want to feel like at the same time that you're reaching your full potential, while at the same time being happy in this moment.
Yeah, for sure. That's the goal.
You're making amazing things, and I really think you are showing the humanity in everyone, and I think that's awesome.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I had a good time.